Is the Odyssey the wokest thing since Bud Light? Did diversity ruin the immersion? Because if you believe everything flying around online this past week, you'd think Christopher Nolan had finally missed. People were saying this was his first real flop, the budget was too big, the casting was too woke, and somehow this movie needed to make near $1 billion just to break even. I don't know where these people are getting their numbers from. Now that I've actually seen it, I think a lot of people completely missed what Nolan is capable of doing and was trying to do. And honestly, I don't think they understood the Odyssey either from Nolan's vision, if they even watched it at all, which most didn't. So no spoilers here, let's get into it. Before this movie even came out, it felt like people had already decided how they wanted it to end. Every day there was another headline. The budget's too big, they need to make 3 times the budget opening day or it fails. Upon release, new headlines. I walked out after 20 minutes, it's so bad and woke, this isn't faithful, etc, etc. It's almost like people were looking for any reason this movie should or will fail. You've even got Elon Musk jumping into the conversation saying he'd give Mel Gibson $100 million to make a more accurate version of the Odyssey. Which, sure, because Apocalypto is so historically accurate to begin with. Most people who couldn't tell you the difference between the Iliad and the Odyssey are now experts on the Bronze Age and Greece and everything that comes with it. It's getting crazy. Now, don't get me wrong, there are legitimate conversations you can have about the adaptation and about the casting, but a lot of the online discussion wasn't really about the movie, because every time they would reference another movie like Troy, which also had inaccuracies in it, they don't worry about that part. It was always about winning another culture war argument, using a quote-unquote accuracy or inaccuracy as a scapegoat. Meanwhile, the actual film was sitting there waiting for people to experience it. And man, is it ever an experience to be had. Here's why I think Christopher Nolan keeps getting away with this kind of stuff. It's not just because he's technically brilliant, everyone knows he can shoot beautiful films, he's done it before, everyone knows he likes practical effects, everybody knows he'll somehow convince a studio to build something instead of using CGI instead. That's not the secret. The secret is he understands people. That's why Interstellar works, that's why The Prestige works, that's why Oppenheimer works. It's not really about space, magic, or nuclear bombs. They're talking about real people making impossible choices in their given scenarios. And the Odyssey is exactly that. Gods and monsters. A journey that goes on forever. You could easily have messed this up. The pacing might not work, the mythology could feel disconnected, but somehow Christopher Nolan makes all of it feel grounded because every strange thing serves the emotional journey and hammers home the point of everything. It's never about the monsters, it's about what the monsters represent. It's never about the gods, it's about what temptation, pride, guilt, or hope looks like. Even the casting controversies, those pretty much disappear once the actual movie gets moving. And I'll be honest, there were moments that made me laugh, okay? When Hamish Patel's Eurylochus introduced himself, or maybe he just said, "We are Greeks," I definitely had like a little theater chuckle, okay? It was like,
I don't believe you.
but it really didn't matter that much. Helen worked just fine as well.
In fact, there were so many arguments between men about her, she might have actually been the perfect casting.
Even the scene people keep using nowadays isn't actually Helen, but her sister in the middle of something that I won't say here, but wouldn't have you looking your best either probably. But sure enough, whenever these things popped up, 2 seconds later, I completely stopped thinking about it because the characters worked, the performances worked, the story worked. And my biggest concern going in was Elliot. Turns out his role was, time-wise, pretty small, which made sense. It served the story. But then, like everything else, the movie keeps going and then takes you into the next leg of the journey. The internet made it sound like the casting was going to overshadow everything. It doesn't, not even close. What stayed with me wasn't who looked like who, it was watching the story of a man carrying the weight of every decision he's ever made. Watching leadership become a burden, watching the people who trust him slowly pay the price alongside him. That's what this film is about. Not monsters, not action, not mythology, and not super duper accuracy. It's about coming home after you've been changed forever. And Nolan gets that. That's the relatable edge that every other human on this planet, whether you like the movie or not, can understand. Now, I said this before this movie released. Don't bet against Christopher Nolan. People keep trying. People keep saying, this is the one. He's gotten too woke. Even this guy. He's done for. Hollywood's gotten to him. But then opening weekend comes and somehow he proves everybody wrong. I couldn't even get an IMAX 70mm ticket. So I ended up settling for regular 70mm. I'm still going to watch it in IMAX later on. But that just goes to show people are excited for this. And even then, watching this movie, I walked out remembering why I fell in love with movies in the first place. The scale, the sound, the practical effects, the feeling that you get while you're watching and thinking, man, everything behind this actually in front of the camera exists. That immersion was still there. It was incredible, especially now when so many blockbusters feel like they're built inside a computer, which, you know, if you get what I'm saying with the effects and everything, I don't personally dislike that at all. I don't think it's a bad thing. It just feels a little copy paste sometimes. Nolan, though, reminds you that cinema can still feel tangible, different, alive. If you can go into Troy and be like, yeah, it's not super accurate, but it's still a good movie though, which I agree with, Troy's great. If you can go into Apocalypto and be like, yeah, it's not 100% perfect, but it's good enough and it's a great movie, then I implore you to check this out. It's not perfect, but man, is it a good movie. This film reached inside me, shook my soul, and it's like, this is why you like film. This was such a reminder about why it is I actually enjoy watching movies, why I have a YouTube channel dedicated to talking about movies. Like, this film reignited that I didn't even know was even out to begin with. The fire was already there. We just threw gasoline on it for no reason. Do yourself a favor, put the ego aside. If that's your problem with it, it ain't gonna be accurate. Just sit back, enjoy, and remember that movies are for entertainment, and you will be entertained. Trust me, if you've been avoiding this purely because of the casting or some other minute inaccuracies, they do not matter in the grand scheme of it all. You're honestly cheating yourself out of one of the best theatrical experiences of the year. You don't have to agree with every creative decision. I don't. But if your goal is to experience a story that understands humanity's sacrifice, guilt, preservation, and what it really means to find your way home, what it means to just enjoy a good film, Christopher Nolan absolutely understood that assignment. But hey, maybe that's just me. Do you think Christopher Nolan actually understood the Odyssey? Or do you think the internet had it right this whole time? Let me know below. And that's it for the video. If you enjoyed, you'll love the next one coming up. But until then, like, comment, and share this out.